Welcome to Fancounters. My name's Nick. This week we've got something very special for you. We did a live show, Elizabeth and I. We were at the Waukesha Civic Theatre in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and we hosted a very intimate evening with country star Bryan White. Bryan White came to Waukesha, did a show at the theater, and then after the show, we did a Q&A with the audience, asked some of our own questions, and I think you're going to really like it. Now, the problem is we've never recorded outside of this studio before, so the levels on this show were crazy everywhere. Brian's mic was too low, ours were too hot, and we didn't really have it mixed very well up in the sound booth, and didn't have a lot of control over that. We know what to change if we do another live show next time, but this time it was kind of trial and error, and I hope I fixed all the errors so you don't get blown out in your earphones or anything like that. It's all very much to the same level, but sometimes the background noise is a little different. So I do hope you enjoy the live show that we did in front of an audience with Bryan White.
Coming to you from nowhere near the entertainment capital of the world, this is Fancounters with Nick and Elizabeth on the Podfix Network.
There was this mob of people, and they're screaming my name.
Crazy fans.
Stop following me. Don't come around my house. If you do, the cops are going to be at yours.
If I'm having dinner with my wife, don't sit down at my table. Don't follow me into the bathroom.
Can I take a picture? We're gonna. Oh my God.
I think this guy wants to fight me. Ended up being a fan.
I'm the only one that's ever been on Sam Jackson and lived to tell about it.
Well, guess what? I have a big surprise for you.
That's why we call it Fancounters.
I don't think you're going to last on the air very long.
Welcome to Fancounters, our first live show. My name's Nick.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And this week, that's right in front of you guys, Bryan White, who just put on a great show. Let's hear it for Bryan.
Yay!
You can follow us on Twitter at Fancounters Live. We are also on Facebook. We have a private group called Sharpie Nation, kind of like you get an autograph, Sharpie. And also, we have a big Facebook group if you just search Fancounters. We'll edit that out.
You can always email us at hello@fancounters.com.
Bryan, thanks for being here. Welcome to Waukesha.
Thank you, brother.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm doing well.
You blew us away. Great show. We have a lot of audience questions, which we're going to get to. But let's start with one of mine. Not many 20-year-olds can say, and I know you're not 20 now, but that being just 2 years out of high school, that it was the start of a lifelong successful career. Many people change jobs. You didn't have to do that. You released Eugene Eugenius in 1994, and although it did not reach the top 40, it would only take you a few more months before you reach number one with someone else's star. So, being as young as you were and becoming as successful as you did so quickly, what do you remember about starting out and having that success that fast?
I just remember it being, music was such a big deal during that time for me. And I moved to Nashville when it was 1992. And I just remember wanting to be creative. Like every day that I woke up, I was ready to go write, or I was ready to go, do a new demo of something. I immediately met a bunch of people that were my age, and we just kind of had this immediate connection. And we would adjourn at somebody's house or somebody's apartment, and we would play guitars and work on harmony parts until 2, 3 in the morning, And we were just so excited about music. And not long, I think it was maybe a 2-year period. I kind of honed my chops in singing demos for other songwriters, and that was kind of where I got my first studio experience, was just working on people's demos. And then I kind of developed a bit of a rapport and started kind of getting a lot of phone calls to sing demos for songwriters, and that's kind of how I ate for a while. I remember I got paid $40 a song. And so I'd try to rack up as many of those a week as I could. And then, but yeah, I just remember it being just just an exciting time. That's just the best way to put it was my early years of moving to Nashville. It was a very exciting time. It's crazy. I didn't have anything, but I was still so excited. I wasn't, I didn't have any money or anything, but I was just so overjoyed to be there and be a part of it.
Every time, if you listen to the podcast, there's a sensitive question. I give it to Elizabeth, and I wrote this next question, and she gets to ask it. So don't blush, Bryan, please.
Okay, no. Mm-hmm. Back in 1998, you did a concert tour with LeAnn Rimes called Something to Talk About. Mm-hmm. And Variety magazine called the two of you the country equivalent of Ken and Barbie.
I didn't know that.
I told you. He digs into everything.
It's in the article, yeah.
I love it.
Now, I know you've been dating Erica since 1999. You've been married since 2000. Mm-hmm. But was there ever a chance of a relationship between you and LeAnn, or was that a press opportunity?
That was probably the most fun I've ever had on the road because it was such a well-oiled machine. I mean, we all kind of produced that show together, and LeAnn's band and my band and all of us, we actually we rented out an arena and put the whole show together and try to make it seamless. And my favorite part of the night was getting to do From This Moment On with LeAnn, and then we would close with Stand By Me, and it was just I had a blast. It was so much fun.
I'm this old. I saw that tour.
Nice.
All right, we have Tracy, our announcer voice, in the audience, and he's going to take audience questions. So if you have one, raise your hand, and he's going to come down to you. Do you and LeAnn Rimes or Shania Twain, because you already did the Shania Twain story, we don't need to do that again, do you guys keep in touch?
We do. We go through phases where she's super busy or I'm super busy, but we always kind of, after it's been too long, we start hitting each other up again just to kind of reconnect. So it's been a while since I've talked to her, but yes, we do keep in touch. Yeah.
Nice. All right, we have our first audience question. Say your name and give us your question.
My name is Ethan, and my question is, when did you start playing the guitar and how?
Hey, Ethan, how are you, buddy?
Good.
How old are you?
10.
10? All right. I remember my first. I learned a three-chord song when I was very young, and it was Swingin' by John Anderson. That's actually, it might be 4 chords, I'm not sure. But I learned that early, probably about your age, and then I really didn't do anything with it. I was just like, cool, I know a few chords. But I was a drummer, so I was more focused on drums. So I got really excited about guitar more like around the age of 16, 17. And I really started figuring things out. I took a few lessons and, learned a few basic chords and started learning some scales. And so I'd say probably my late teens is when I really started getting serious about guitar.
You've written a lot of songs that became hits for other people. One of my favorite songs, and I think everybody in this room knows it, it's called I Don't Believe in Goodbye. It was recorded by Mark Miller and Sawyer Brown. So you wrote that song with Mark, right? Mm-hmm. And so how do you decide who gets it?
Well, he was having hits at the time, so I was like, I hope you record it. Okay. I co-wrote that with Mark Miller and Scotty Emmerich, and that is such a vivid memory because I was still driving this horrible Plymouth Horizon hatchback stick shift.
I had one.
Yeah, and Scott was sort of being developed by Mark at the time, and actually Scott's first spec project that he recorded, Mark produced, and I did all of the background harmonies on it. And I wish I had a copy of that stuff. It's so cool. But I had this idea. I always keep title pages, where I'll just write tons and tons of titles down, and some of them I'll throw out, and some of them I'll kind of keep if they're interesting enough to stay in my psyche, And I Don't Believe in Goodbye was just kind of something I had written down, and I just had it kind of living in my front lobe, And so Scott and I went over to write with Mark one night, and I never was nervous around Mark, there are certain celebrities you get around and you can't act normal, but Mark had this this real warmth about him that he was just such an approachable guy. He was funny. And we went over there, and I just kind of threw that idea out, and Mark liked it, and I think we wrote that song in probably 2 hours, maybe.
Oh, nice.
And then Scott and I did the demo, and not long after that, Scott comes over. Scott and another guy and myself, we were all rooming in this house, and he came home from writing one day, and he goes, "Hey, I think Mark and them were going to cut this song," and I was like, can't believe it. And then it became a top 5 record. And for somebody that, had been in high school 2 years before that, I mean, that was a really big deal to me. And I'm forever grateful to Mark and those guys for cutting that song.
Hey, Bryan, my name's Tony. So I'm going to switch gears just for a second on topics away from, maybe music per se. But I was just wondering, have you been impacted directly by any friends or anybody that have been, had addiction problems?
Oh my gosh, for sure. Absolutely, Tony. My father was a horrible alcoholic. In fact, I lost him. It's almost been 4 years. I think it was 4 years this past October. He was hit by a car walking across a 4-lane highway. And, it's kind of a really, weird story because it seems like it would be the other way, him operating a vehicle or something like that. But he was stepping across the road and the street light was out where he was stepping across, and it was just a unfortunate scenario. But, he was one of those guys. He was a sweetheart. He introduced my brother and I to music and the outdoors, and I'm grateful for that. The alcohol kept us from really having a really good father-son relationship, which is really unfortunate because it just created such an awkwardness. I didn't want to really be around him, and I didn't want my kids to be around it. But I still love my dad. I have a very high respect for him because I don't think I would have had the connections nor moved to Nashville nor had the love that I have for country music without my dad. So
I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you very much, man.
We're just going to keep on with the audience. I want to make sure they get... Oh, go ahead.
Tony, I wanted to say, he made multiple efforts to get clean, and the last effort he made was a very encouraging one for our whole family. I thought he was really, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. It's a fight to the end. I know all about it just from, Al-Anon and knowing what it's like being a child of an alcoholic and being around so many other people who had similar stories. But I thought he was really on top of it. And unfortunately, I think just something emotional happened that he couldn't handle, and it sort of put him back in the same scenario again. So, but thanks for asking. I hope that answered your question.
Hi, Bryan. My name is Melody. Thank you for letting us duet with you. My cousin and I were losing our mind. My question is, what is your favorite performance memory or your most interesting memory in performing on the road?
Wow. There's a YouTube clip of me doing the Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and I'm doing the Love is the Right Place. I love that performance. It's not perfect, but I just love the energy, and I feel like I delivered it well. And that's just off the top of my head, that's one of my favorite performances. I think one of those first major moments of just going, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. I think I did my first full live show opening for Steve Wariner in Nacogdoches, Texas. And, Steve was my hero. And so I think, him inviting me to come out and do a song with him during his show, that was just one of those, again, it's like everybody in this room's had some sort of out-of-body, numb experience where you're like, this is just total bliss, and I don't know how to, you can't process it, And I would say that was probably one of my first major experiences musically where I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, So
I did have one other question, if
Sure.
that's okay. What do you feel is the difference in country music between when you started and today that's given it such a different point of view now?
Well, I always think about it as a market. You know, it's a market. And that changes from generation to generation, you know. It's a much more youth-driven market, and it's, you know, it's kind of geared toward hooking up and hanging out and, you know, Friday nights and bonfires and let's get out of this bar and get out beyond the city limits. That's kind of the subject matter that's kind of owning that market right now. And there, you know, that's just how it is. I mean, things change, and I would just say that the difference is, you know, there's not as broad of there's not a real broadness going on. It's more kind of one thing than there was back when I was, you know, when I came on the scene. It seemed like there was just, you know, there were much more subject matter was. You were hearing stories on the radio, and you don't really hear that as much on the radio. I mean, there's every once in a while you hear The House That Built Me, and it really, you know, knocks you out and just, you know, kills you. And then there's it's the other one that just, I cried when I heard it. It was so my upbringing. It was I Lived It, the Blake Shelton song. I think that is. I wish I'd have written that song. I felt like it was written for me. I mean, it was so good. But so they rear their heads every now and then. You know, when an artist is brave enough to just own a song, whether anybody else likes it or not, they, you know. But it's, you know, hopefully that explains a little bit of maybe the difference.
That's what I miss, the stories, and that's like Colin Ray. He put out a lot of controversial, and like Little Rock '92.
Man. That's my favorite.
I love that song because it's so dirty and into life, and
yeah,
I guess that's what I miss.
Tom Douglas wrote that, and he's an Arkansas boy, and he's a real anomaly because when people say, well, how do I get into this, and how do I write songs, and how do I, you know, get plugged in, I always say, well, you got to go where it's happening, because you there's something about getting around that community, because you just learn and you get better. I couldn't even change guitar strings when I moved to Nashville. But what did I do? I started hanging out with great guitar players, and I started just figuring it all out, you know. But Tom Douglas is one of those rarities where I think he made some trips to Nashville, and that song just happened to be in his arsenal, and he got a cut living in Arkansas, and that's kind of what brought him to Nashville, and that doesn't happen very often. That's pretty rare, but that's a great song.
Hi, I'm Rebecca.
Hey, Rebecca.
She's Rebecca Lynn.
One N.
All right.
Isn't that amazing?
All right.
Anyway.
I'll go back and change it.
Oh,
just
my
for you.
That's just exactly what I wanted to hear the first time I heard your album, which was my first CD as a Christmas present, by the way, and I never bought CDs ever. So.
Nobody buys them anymore either.
Unfortunately, I still do, because I'm the old woman who can't figure out how to download the stuff.
So my number one question, I remember the first moment that I saw a performer that just inspired me to be on stage, either acting or performing in some way. Who was your all-time inspiration that said, like, you had to be a part of that stage life, you had to be a part of the music world? Who was that number one inspiration?
Well, I think before I tell you the number one inspiration, I have to kind of go back a little bit and mention my mom and dad, because I don't think, had I not sort of been around that, and see, my parents were kind of like celebrities to me, because early on, I mean, I saw them on stage playing and singing, you know, and it was just kind of a thing, and but just they were always larger than life to me. So I would say they were kind of the first thing that really kind of infused that into me. But my mom had a band, and they had rehearsals a lot, and so they would rehearse at the club that they were already set up at, you know. So my mom would have to drag my brother and I along because, you know, she couldn't afford a babysitter, and so I would hear them, you know, running these songs and learning these songs for hours on end, and one of the songs they were learning was a song called "That's How You Know When Love Is Right," and it was Steve Wariner and Nicolette Larson. I don't know if anybody remembers Nicolette Larson, the late Nicolette Larson, and it was this great duet. And I thought she was amazing, but I instantly heard Steve's timbre and tone and phrasing, and I was really just drawn to it. And I remember asking my mom that day, who is that guy? And she said, that's Steve Wariner. And I just remember distinctly from that day forward, I did everything I could to grab all of his music, and I tried to emulate him. He was the first person that I tried to be like. And I remember it distinctly changing. It was like, my face just conformed to wanting to make records and wanting to move to Nashville. And it was a very definitive moment for me when I heard Steve. I was like, I want to do that.
Hi, Brian.
Hey.
I'm Kelly. I'm piggybacking off the today's radio. Who are some of your favorite artists that might be on the radio today?
Mm-hmm. I'm a big Miranda Lambert fan. I like Miranda a lot. I especially like a lot of her new record. I think it's cool, and I'll tell you why I like her, because she appears to be herself. She's not barking up the tree that a lot of people are, and she's just doing. I mean, to me, I think her music is a direct reflection of who she is, and I think she's a great singer, and she's a country singer. You know what I mean? I mean, she could probably sing a lot of stuff, but her phrasing and the way that she delivers a song, I mean, it's country. There's just no way around it, and to me, that's amazing. She's one of my favorites. One of my favorite artists right now he's not a country artist, but he's an Oklahoma boy. His name's Ben Rector, and I'm such a uber fan of his. I just think he's tremendous. It's pop, but it's very keyboard influenced. Great lyrics, great stories. If you guys haven't heard Ben Rector, they're great songs. They're nostalgic. Some of them are so nostalgic, and they take you back to a certain time, and they're so honest, and they're not. It doesn't sound like music that's somebody's trying to package for a certain something. It just sounds like honest, good stuff. I love Keith Urban. I think he's a great artist. And his records when they come on.
Yes, you do.
Immediately who
he
it is.
He sings my wedding song.
Yeah. So, there's a bunch of guys that I really like. I love Cody Johnson a lot. I think he's a great singer. Craig Campbell, he's an incredible singer. There's a lot of good ones out there.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to keep going, but we'll keep it. I want to go back to, when you've written a song, have you ever sold one and then regretted it? Like, oh gosh, I wish I'd have recorded that.
Yeah, well, I didn't regret it, but and when you say, I'm trying to think. I had a song recorded by Diamond Rio, and it was a song I co-wrote with Derek George and John Tiro, and that was a song that, like the demo, we worked so hard on the demo because we were like, when we play this for the label, we want to blow their hair back, and there were so many politics around the song selection for my records. Even though I was the artist back then, I just wasn't as strong-willed to just put my foot down. I was the guy that would go, well, okay, and to my, it's to a fault, but I'm so not that person anymore, if you can't already tell. But that's one I felt like was pretty tailor-made for me, and I really, really wanted to record it. It made sense to me, too. If you listen to Imagine That, you can hear how it would have made sense on some of those records, But it was a big hit for Diamond Rio, and I can't complain about that because they're heroes of mine. They're incredible.
My name is Mark.
Hey, Mark.
My question for you is, do you prefer Christmas socks, or are you more of a Christmas sweater kind of guy?
Definitely socks, Mark. Definitely socks. I'm a sock guy. I've got, I'm a hunter, so I'm always, out, and we're getting into that season where it's like so cold, you got to have something. So I've got all these like serious hardcore, merino wool socks, and I'll wear them around the house because I get cold real easily. Like, I mean, my nose is cold right now.
It's freezing up here.
Yeah.
Like, there's a cold draft coming on the back of my
But
neck.
I get cold in the summertime. Does anybody get cold in the summertime in your house?
I could be on fire and tell you it was cold in
do.
here.
So, I mean, yes, socks.
All right, not kind of a not so fun topic. I wanted to ask you last time you were on the show, and we just ran out of time. So here we go. I got a serious question, and then we got some real quick hits, and then we'll, if anybody has a final question, we can wrap it up. Yep, I'll get to you. Don't worry. So you as an artist, along with a lot of our favorites from the 90s, did experience that time when radio stopped calling, radio stopped playing. You couldn't get a song on the radio to save your life. As an artist, how do you deal with all of a sudden now I'm being rejected and they've moved on to all these other artists? And, you know, I did read that you went into a big depression about the fact that your career wasn't what it once was. So how as an artist did you deal with that depression and come back out to be as strong as you are right now?
Well, I don't equate it to one specific thing. There were a lot of things that were going on during that time when I started not getting played as much. And I don't blame any one thing, but these are some things that were going on, I think, that may have played into that a little bit. One, I'm at the top of my career, and there's nobody that can endure in that kind of success. I mean, there's no human on earth that is not going to be affected by that to some degree. You know, there was a part of me that, you know, I just thought I was the stuff, you know what I mean? And I was a kid, though, you know, and there's all these people around you working for you that, you know, nobody tells you no, you know.
Everybody tells you how awesome you are.
Yeah, that's how it works, you know. And then you start drinking your own Kool-Aid, you know. You're like, yeah, you know. And I'm kind of joking, but I'm kind of serious too. And my label was Asylum Records. They were under the Warner Brothers umbrella. And the team that I kind of grew up with and got in the dirt with and hit all of the stations and in a minivan and 3 stations a day, singing in conference rooms at 5 o'clock in the morning and, you know, just, I mean, grinding it out. I mean, that team got let go by the New York offices. And this is the team that we all showed up together and, you know, when I won a CMA award, I didn't feel like it was me winning the award. I felt like we were winning the award because we busted our hind ends to make it happen. I mean, I think the music was good and the product was good, but still, I mean, there's a lot of great singers out there and great artists that, you know, for whatever reason, it didn't work out because they didn't have the right whatever, you know.
Right.
So that was pretty depressing for your team to get let go, and then this new team comes in, and they're all great people, but it's like kind of starting from scratch again. So there was a little bit of that, you know, that was very stressful. I cut a record during that time, and the label heads, the new label heads, they were awesome because they let Derek, George, and I produce 6 sides for that record, and Dan Huff did 6 sides. And, you know, when I listen back, I can listen to it and I can go, these are great songs, and I'm very proud of these songs. But I was really pushing the envelope. I was really I was just trying to impress people at that point, you know. It's like I knew I could sing, but, you know, hey, watch this. It was kind of like a hey, watch this album. And so there was a little bit of that, and I think some of that pushing of the envelope probably caused radio to go, wow, you know,
that's not Bryan White.
Yeah, you know.
That's not what you sound like.
So, and at the same time, you know, an artist has got to kind of grow where he thinks he needs to grow. So it's kind of a tough spot. But, and then, you know, I started getting, you know, some negative reviews on some of the records, and, you know, just things like that start playing into your psyche, and you know, one day you wake up and you're like, wow, I'm having struggles singing, and my confidence is waning, and all of a sudden I'm not, these songs that I really loved and poured my heart into are not getting played. So, I don't think it was just one thing that caused the records to not be played. I think it was, when you lose the support system, that's a huge one. You lose your promotion team, you lose your radio regionals, all those things. I would say, if I was going to point the finger at anything, I'd say that team not being there was a big part of it. And the reason the momentum went away is because I went into a depression and I didn't want to sing. I didn't want to be out there because I could feel anxiety when I was on stage. And when people know you to be a good singer, you feel that pressure all the time of, oh my God, I've got to be great all the time, and you can't be great all the time. You just can't be. And then I started to not be great, and that just escalated. And but to answer your question, taking that time off and and doing some major soul searching was the smartest thing I ever did, because it helped me to find who I was. It helped me to really develop a great relationship with God, and it helped me to, it really put me on the right path. Now, I still struggle with confidence issues from time to time and vocal things, but, I think knowing that I'm loved and knowing that none of that stuff really matters, Right. What matters is my well-being, and that I'm, Justin Jackson's dad and Erica's husband, and I've got all these great people out here that God bless them. They still come and see me, and so I've got a lot to be thankful for. And I'm at the end of the day, I'm so lucky. I'm so fortunate, and I just keep showing up.
Thank you for sharing that journey.
Hi, Bryan. My name is Kathy. My question for you is, what inspires you today?
Singing a Cradle in Bethlehem in front of you guys. I love that song. That's a cool song. What inspires me? My reverb pedal. That inspires me. I love the outdoors. I really love the outdoors. I have a website that I started called TennesseeOutdoorCommunity.com, and what it is it's just basically it's not just about hunting or fishing. It's a place where people can connect, through any sort of outdoor activity that they love, and they post their pictures and their story and where it was in the state, and so that's another thing that I do, and I don't like to ski. I'm not a thrill seeker. I'm not like a guy that's going to jump out of a helicopter or anything like that. But I love the outdoors. I love playing basketball with my kids. I love going to my kids' games. The outdoors inspires me. Music still inspires me. I don't really read too much. I love great movies. I love a really great, drama. I love a great comedy. I don't know.Id that answer any of your? I don't know if that answered
Yes,
your question.
it did.
It's kind of
Thank
long.
you.
Sorry.
All right, real quick, Bryan. As a fellow artist, not getting anywhere near the fame you did. Okay. Do you find that the internet has helped reach more people than you would have reached before with just CDs and cassettes and albums?
I think so. I think you have a greater possibility of reaching a broader audience because of it. Definitely, for sure.
And do you still get residuals from your digital downloads?
I do, but they're not as big as they used to be.
I get like a $20 check every quarter.
Yeah.
Normally, Nick and I are sitting next to each other. We communicate better.
We
than
just
this.
point, but
Okay, again, I don't write these. So, we saw on Twitter your support of Lauren Elena on Dancing with the Stars.
Mm-hmm. Do you like how she lives under a rock? Lauren Elena, who's that? American Idol.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I do know what Dancing with the Stars is. Any chance we'll find you on it?
I've been asked a lot, like, would you ever do it? And it really frightens me to think about it. Because like singing a song live is one thing, but doing a task that you don't really have a natural knack for, that you have to spend weeks on end, like dying to yourself to learn this number, that absolutely frightens me. I mean,
okay.
But I might do it. I don't know. Do y'all think I could do it?
Do it. Yeah.
I hear there lots of Band-Aids are needed. That's all I hear.
Yeah.
Is that everybody who does it ends up with sore feet. You need lots of Band-Aids.
Wow.
Well, you'd be great.
Oh, I forgot. I run marathons. I run a marathon a year, and I run a half and a marathon every year. And so that inspires me. But so I was mentioning that because I think, at least right now, I feel like if I got a call from Dancing with the Stars, I probably would be in shape enough to pull it off.
I think you could do it, especially if you're running marathons. You've got the endurance to be able to do that.
Maybe.
I think you could.
All right, we'll do our last audience question, then we'll finish up with one from the stage that I think you all will like.
Hi, Brian. I'm Cindy. Amazing show tonight, by the way. Who was your favorite artist of all time to work with? I know you had a great time with Shania Twain, but who was like the best one?
Man, that's such a tough one. I have a hard time with ultimatums. There's only a few ultimatums in my life. But when somebody says, well, who was your favorite singer or whatever, it's there's so many.
Or how
great
about
ones,
how'd you know you made it when some artist called you up to work with you?
Well, if maybe this might be something along those lines, but when I got a call, or when my agent at William Morris told me that, Vince wanted me to be the opening slot for his tour in '97, I think that was just kind of one of those first things that happen where you're like, oh my God, one of those things like, and the fact that he was from my hometown, and I grew up listening to Vince, and it was really cool, and I got to sing Liza Jane with him every night after all these shows. I mean, we did a ton of shows together, and he was just the greatest guy in the world.
And a fellow Okie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian has a new single out called It Must Be Love. Your music video is very awesome. It was shot on the New Jersey boardwalk. You said you chose the boardwalk because you fell in love with the area while you played a show there. So my question is, Brian, what do you think of Waukesha?
The 5 seconds you've seen it in the tundra that is 19 degrees.
From the hotel to here. But you know what? As we were driving in today, it was just very charming, and I love this whole area. I love how everything's decorated, and I'm sure that I would. The more time I spend here. Right.
We're working on it.
I'll fall more and more in love with it. So we'll have to do a video.
There you go. Get a Christmas song going. Come back around next year around this
you
time.
Could use these trees.
Awesome.
Brian, thank you so much for a great evening here. We really do appreciate you sticking around for a Q&A with us, and we enjoyed having you on the show.
You too. It's my pleasure. Thank you guys very much, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. Our thanks to Bryan White for joining us in person, live in front of an audience, taking questions from the audience as well as us. We hope to do these live shows again in the near future, maybe even coming to a city near you. You can email us at hello@fancounters.com. We also have our private Facebook group called Sharpie Nation. You can join Sharpie Nation to get all the behind-the-scenes stories that go on with Fan Counters, and you might even get to know who next week's guest is ahead of time. I'm not going to tell you here. If you want to know who that guest is going to be, you'll have to go to Sharpie Nation, join the group, and find out. I will post it right now. And lastly, join us next week for another Hollywood celebrity. I'm going to be joined by my special guest co-host, Brian Nelson Jr., who's bringing us another Hollywood star. And we can't wait to find out who that is. And you will find out next Friday. Have a great week. Happy New Year, and I'll see you in 2020.